Virginia Department of Corrections, Red Onion State Prison. To accept this call, press 0.
This is Randall Via, and I'm currently serving 1,214 years without the possibility of parole in the state of Virginia, United States of America. And this is my podcast, Red Onion Randy. I hope you enjoy listening to me. One of my earlier episodes where I talked about friendship seems to be very popular with my listeners, and some have wanted me to go a little bit deeper into that. So today, I'm going to take a stab at that and see what I can do. Friendship in prison is a very difficult subject, because in prison, the fact of the matter is, it's not that you don't want to trust anyone. You can't trust anyone. I've seen guys who have been friends 20, 30 years in prison. And just one day, because one person wants something, he turns on his friend. You know, so even if you think you're true, genuine friends, at the end of the day, you never know what is inside another person's head. I've seen friends get to fighting. I've seen friends stab one another. You have people in here for a reason. The majority of us are in here for a reason. And I think some people forget that when they come to prison. They think it's like a frat house, it's like a summer camp, or it's like high school. And the sad thing is, it really is a lot like high school, because you have cliques of guys, you have groups of guys that hang out, especially, you know, with the gangs being so prevalent in prison culture now. You got Crips, you got Bloods, you got, you know, the white supremacist groups, you got the Spanish groups, MS-13 and whatnot. You have biker groups, you have Asian gangs. People tend to gravitate, birds of a feather flock together. That saying is never more true than it is here in prison. So you gravitate towards people that make you feel comfortable. And people that make you feel comfortable, you usually wind up calling them friend. But how can you be friends with someone you cannot trust in an environment that is designed to test that friendship and not only push it to the point, but push it past the breaking point? Because when you're in this environment, you assume a lot of things. Whether they're true or not is irrelevant. That's where your mind naturally goes. So if you're friends with someone, and, you know, you have a little small group, and you wind up telling your friend, and I'm going to use Frank as an example, because Frank has come, you know, he's the closest person to a friend that I've ever had in prison. Let's say I sit there and I tell him, yo, man, I'm making some mash. And mash is just homemade wine. So I tell him that. He's like, all right, man, that's what's up. That's what's up. And let's say later that day, or, you know, within a couple of days after I told him that, let's say the COs come in the cell and shake me down and they find that wine. Well, guess where my mind is going to automatically go to? Now, this could just be a random shakedown. And sometimes it is. But because I told Frank, yo, I'm making some wine, and I get too off with it, I'm going to automatically think, yo, dude snitched on me. That's what I'm going to assume. So being friends with a person in prison is completely different than being friends with a person on the street. Sometimes I do sit back and compare the differences between my friendships with people on the street in the real world and my, air quotes, friendships with people that I've known in prison. And it's no comparison, because I feel more compelled to be open and honest, more me, than I do with someone here in prison. Because in prison, you have to keep up your walls. You have to keep up your defenses. Because at the end of the day, and I cannot stress this enough, in prison, you never know who you can trust. But you know who you can't trust. And that's pretty much the person you're talking to. Because you can't read their mind. There are stories in prison, especially back in the day when the system, the state of Virginia used to be one of the wildest, most hardcore violent systems in the state of, in the United States of America. I mean, it used to be a very, very brutal prison system. Because back then, if you got to fight with someone, you do maybe 20, 30 days in SEG and you right back out. You stab someone, you'll do about 9 to 12 months in solitary, which in prison we call solitary jail. Don't ask me why, but that's what we call it. It's like you're getting locked up all over again for some reason. There really were no major consequences back then. You know what I'm saying? So it was extremely violent. And you would have guys where, cellies would be in there. Let's say I'm in the cell, Frank is out there in the pod, and you have a couple of guys come up on the cell, slide the door open, and walk on in like, yo, man, they either going to try to rape me or they just simply there to rob me and take my stuff and, and whatnot. And if I get to rumbling with them, Frank comes running up and he starts stabbing them from behind or just punching them from behind or whatever. We get to fighting until, either somebody's dead, somebody's knocked out and unconscious, or the COs are there to break it up. And 3 weeks later, me and Frank, because I made the wrong joke at the wrong time, because I didn't realize, hey, something had happened to him. Somebody had already pissed him off. Or he just simply woke up on the wrong side of the bed. And I say something, and next thing you know, he steals on me. And we get to fighting, or he just straight up stabs me or slits my throat from behind or whatnot. That has happened a lot of times in prison. You actually fought with this guy back to back, holding y'all's own against others. And then several weeks later, y'all get to fighting and your friendship is ruined. Because let me tell you something. If you ever find yourself in prison, and I can't stress this enough, I pray to God that you do not. If you ever get to fighting with someone, you will never, ever, ever be friends with them again because you can't trust them. Especially if you want to fight. If you're in the cell with someone and I get to arguing with them, I don't care who it is. It could be my brother Jason. If me and him was in the cell together and we got into an argument, like I did with the guy, who said he was going to break the kiosk and whatnot, I'm not going to sleep ever again with you in that cell. So one of us is leaving that cell. And I can tell you right now, it's not going to be me. I'm going to tell you straight up, yo, look, man, dude, I don't trust you. I'm not going to sleep with you in this cell. So you got two choices, bro. You either push the button and check in, or you start swinging. Because you can't trust people. So friendship in here it's like a high wire act. And gale force wins. Because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you can trust a person. At the same time, and this is where it gets crazy, and this is where it gets incredibly difficult. You need friends in prison. You need someone to hang out with. You need someone to be able to talk to. You need someone to trust. Even though you can't trust this person, you're not supposed to trust this person, there's something innate in the human being that demands you trust somebody. Because nobody wants to feel alone. No human. We were not created to be alone. You have to have that, because if you don't, it will drive you crazy. You will become so paranoid, so distrustful, that it eats away at you. I mean, it not only just eats away at your mental faculties and your emotional being, it literally eats away at you physically, because you become a nervous wreck. You stop eating. You're always pacing. You're always watching. You know, and you can tell guys that are in that state, they're skittish. You know, if you just walk in their direction, or you kind of look at them, you'll flinch. There's a couple of guys that are in the pod I'm in right now that are just like that. It's like you just want to like hold your hands up and kind of pat the air like, easy boy, easy big fella, easy big fella. I'm not going to hurt you. There's a good boy. Here, enjoy your carrot. It's like a skittish horse. You have to treat them like a skittish horse. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. The most dangerous person in prison is not the person with the most muscles. It's not the person who has the martial art background. It's not the person who has the steel knife in their back pocket. Because guys who walk around with knives in prison, let me tell you something. They are only there if they get themselves in trouble and they want to sit there and adjust their pants and let the knife drop out the bottom of it so the CO will see it and lock them up. Dudes who walk around with knives all the time, and they always want to say, yeah, well, it's better to get caught with it than to get caught without it. That's a check-in move. They're pussies. Simple as that. But I digress. The most scariest guy in prison is the guy I'm talking about. It's the guy who trusts no one. It's the guy who lives his life in constant fear. And to keep yourself from going down that path, you have to have friends. You have to have guys you talk with. You know, like me and Frank. You know, we get along great. To the extent that me and him can, we trust one another. We've known one another. We've tested one another. We've been through things together. He knows I have his back, and I believe he has mine. But I have another guy in here. His name is Dave, and he's an older guy. You know, he's in his 60s, and you know, he's about 5'9.5", 5'10", around my height and everything. And because he's an old white dude, a lot of people, you know, try to claim that he's a child molester and whatnot. But the fact is, he's not. I've seen his paperwork. That's one thing I made him. Well, I didn't make him. I just told, yo, dude, I want to see your paperwork, man. You know, just let's go ahead and clear this air right here, right now. And he showed me his paperwork, and you know, I know what he's locked in. He's got a bunch of robberies and, you know, some stabbings and, you know, stealing a whole bunch of stuff. He weighs 136 pounds. He's so frail that when the wind blows outside, I want to put my hand on his shoulder just to keep him from blowing away. He tells some tall tales, saying half of what he said was true. Well, honestly, if just 1% of a lot of what he says is true, then, you know what I'm saying, the government would have murdered him a very long time ago. Let's just say he claims to have had dealings with certain government agencies that are spelled with alphabets only. You know, he tells some really funny stories about the CIA and the FBI and, you know what I'm saying, some of that craziness. But I like talking to old Dave, man. He's a good one to talk to if you can just accept him for who he is and not allow it to get on your nerves. Then, yeah, it opens up a whole new dimension to his personality and just being around him. But this is the thing. He does it to make him feel, you know, to make himself feel better. Damn near everybody tries to bully him. Damn near everybody picks on him, talks down to him. And before I came over to the pod, he really wouldn't come out to sell because he's, like I said, I mean, he's an old guy. He's got health issues, you know, and I've known Dave for a very long time. I actually met Dave way back in the day in solitary, I'd had a dictionary at the time, a big dictionary, and when he found out, he would bang on the wall about 10, 15 times a day, hey, man, can you look up this word for me? And honestly, I kind of got tired of doing that, so I just one day I gave it to the CO and said, yo, hand that to him. And Dave took it, and he was like, man, what's this? I'm like, look, man, obviously you need that way more than I do, man. God loves you, man. And I gave it to him, and he really appreciated that. And I've known him since then, and I've given him some fantasy books that, I was blessed enough to receive here and there. And so when I come over to the pod and I see him, I come out, he comes out with me because I told him to, and we started to talk, and he started to let me know what was going on. Now, I know Dave, I know his personality, I know he can be a little bit difficult to deal with because he really doesn't have people skills. There's been times I've had to stop myself from slapping him just the way he speaks to me, and I'm actually friendly with the guy. But I don't like it when somebody bullies someone. So I took him under my wing. And granted, I need someone to talk to. I need someone that I can hang out with, someone that I can walk to. And what I like to do is when I can convince him to actually come outside and risk being blown over the fence and charged with escape at a strong gust, I tell him my fantasy stories, and he loves them. He absolutely loves to hear them because he likes fantasy as much as I do. So I have that some sort of semi-faux relationship with Dave. My friendship with Frank is a little bit more deeper. It's not necessarily intimate because it's not. I don't talk to Frank about my feelings or emotions because in prison, you have to remain closed off. Sometimes you can complain about something, and I'm probably going to do that in an upcoming episode on the way they play movies and child molesters in prison and all that stuff just to get some things off my chest, but that's not for today. I may complain about something to Frank for a couple of minutes, and I'm like, all right, man, anyway, man, I'm moving on. And I'm just using him as a sounding board, and I really don't even care if he listens to me or pays attention to me or not. Just, I can kind of talk it out and get it off my chest, and then we talk about football or we'll talk about food or, the nature show on PBS or something else like that, and we'll go on about our day. But you don't sit there and talk about someone's, yeah, man, damn, dude, I got a Dear John letter last night, man. So-and-so, man, she broke my heart, dude. This woman, she claimed she loved me. She was going to wait for me and do this and that. And next thing I know, man, she told me she done left me for my damn brother or my cousin or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You don't talk about stuff like that in prison. You keep that stuff to yourself because you don't show weakness in prison. It's just like going into the ocean and cutting yourself with a knife. Yeah, it might be okay the first 15, 20, 30 minutes, but eventually a shark is going to show up and start circling. And then other sharks are going to show up and start circling. And then one of them is going to do their damnedest to take a bite out of you. That's what happens in prison. So that's why at times it's difficult for me, even on the podcast, even though I have learned through this medium and talking to my friends like Ava, Shar, Paulie, Michael, Dr. Zahane, I've learned to open up a little bit. I've learned to be more willing to express myself, even though sometimes, I'm just not the type of man to break down and start crying. It would have to be something horrible involving a child or, an animal or something to get tears out of me because I don't know. Hell, I had the tears beaten out of me as a kid. I don't know what else to say beyond that. I'm not that emotional, although I have been doing my best to open up and to express myself with my friends on the street and with my listeners through this podcast. But here in prison, I walk around with the stone face, my warrior face. I don't let people in here because I'm not going to give them that leverage. I'm not going to let them scent that blood no matter what I'm going through. I might be dying inside, but ain't nobody inside these walls are ever going to know it by looking at me. So that's the danger of friendship, but it's also the need of friendship. Because just having someone that I can walk around with and kind of talk to and laugh and joke with and what have you, Dave doesn't have any money. He has no family on the street, except a sister and whatnot, and they're kind of at odds with one another. And I've done my best to try to talk Dave into, repairing that relationship. But even if he does repair the relationship, she's not going to send him money simply because she doesn't have any to send him. So I do my best to try to help him out, to give him a couple soups here or there, to give him a box of Sugar Twins or a bag of coffee. As a matter of fact, and I'm not bragging, I've got 2 little boxes of all detergent laundry to give to him tomorrow so he can wash his clothes. Just to try to help him out and do little things. So you need guys like that. And yes, look, in here, you need to find guys that you can give something to every now and then. That's not something you want to be bringing bags of stuff out every single day. Even if you have money to do that, you don't want to do that because people in here take kindness for weakness. So you want to but you need to feel human in here. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you need to be able to just to give something to someone so you can feel a little bit normal, so you can feel good about yourself. And that's something I've learned. The Bible, people, is not lying when it says it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. It truly is. Because when I come out there tomorrow and I give that to Dave, his whole face is going to light up. He's going to get all excited. He's going to start bouncing on his toes, and he's going to start speaking fast. And he's like, oh, man, dude, man, thank you, man. I love you, brother, man. Oh, dude, you're so good to me. That makes you feel good. And I don't do it to have him fawn over me because he knows I don't like that, and I'm going to tell him to shut the hell up if he takes it too far. But at the same time, you want to feel human.
You have 1 minute remaining.
So you want to have friendships in prison without letting them become friends. And that is an extremely difficult line to walk. It's a very difficult topic to discuss and to express, but I think it's something that will be insightful to you listeners on the street. This is Red Onion Randy. For those of you who listen to me on Apple Podcasts, I would truly appreciate it if you would be willing to take the time to review me and to rate me. Whether you think I'm good or bad, I would appreciate your honesty. I'm trying to grow my podcast. I'm trying to help more and more people. That's why I do this. I don't get no money out of this. I don't get no fame out of this. The only thing I do is I get to open myself up to make myself less violent, less angry, less hurt. And hopefully I get to help someone. Hopefully I get to change someone's life. So whatever you can do to help me help someone else, God bless you and thank you for it. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you for using GTL.